welcome back to the channel. Sit back, relax, and today boys, we are going to discuss what is reality, okay? What is reality, okay? Wow, an interesting topic, Xavier. Well, thank you, Sunny Jim. Thank you very much, okay? Now, I've wanted to discuss this for a long time. Now, obviously, this is very subjective, okay? And in fact, I encourage you to share your opinions down below in the comments. I would love to know what you, my beautiful sinners, think about reality. What do you think reality is? What is real? What is reality? What makes up reality? How do we define reality? And how can we quantify reality? So what is reality? Well, it's very interesting to try and define what reality is, okay? So we can simply go down the route of basically saying reality is things that actually exist, okay? Which, you know, that's pretty fundamental. Now, what is existence? Well, existence is a state of being. We all know that before the universe was created, nothing existed, or so we think, okay? Because it all came from this Big Bang. That's what we know so far. A massive amount of energy had to be made, and nobody really knows how this massive amount of energy came about, so no one really fundamentally understands what reality is and where existence starts. This massive amount of energy that exploded and created everything that we see, stars, galaxies, and all of this came together to form planets and life eventually. So it's all pretty crazy, okay? So we can go down into the fundamental levels and talk about atoms, electrons, quarks, and all of the fundamental things that actually make up our universe, dark matter and matter, or we can go down the other route and just look at it through the human perspective, okay? And that is where it gets very interesting, because that is how we deal with existence. That is how we perceive reality, is through our human biology and through our human perspective, okay? Now, if you compare our human perspective to an animal's perspective, to another type of species, like a goddamn mudfish, okay? Obviously, their reality and our reality is very different. And language and mathematics and all of this stuff to basically try and map and understand reality and the world around us. But actually, just because we perceive it that certain way doesn't mean that is what reality is, okay? So you can't really define reality that way whatsoever, because it's not really stable, because you just have to compare it with another group of life that can be biological, or it can be that could be any type of life. That could be a plant-based life, that could be animals, that could be other species. You can't really define it that way. Another thing to think about is humans are obviously the most intelligent life forms that we have ever encountered, and our brains are very, very clever, even though we can't fully understand how to use our brains 100%, even though we don't really understand how to use our full potential and our brain power 100%. There is so much going on in our subconscious. There are so many neurons firing at each other, forming these connections, different chemicals, keeping us in balance and basically in this base reality. But if you start experimenting, for example, let's just take LSD, for example, okay? This is a psychedelic, okay? And what this does is it obviously messes with the chemicals in your brain, okay? And basically makes you insane. No, but basically it just alters your chemistry, your brain chemistry, and you can start seeing things that you never thought were possible. But does that mean that what you're seeing isn't real, or is it real? Because at the end of the day, it's just different chemicals going off in your brain, so it's very difficult to try and dissect and understand what reality is. Now let's look at something else, for example. When you're watching TV, or when you're playing a game, or better yet, a virtual reality game, when you put on these glasses, you're transported to another place, okay? Obviously that place isn't real, it's a game. A computer program still exists within this reality because it's made up of the same physical elements that make up all reality. When you base reality on perspective, things get very squiffy very quickly, because like I said, fundamentally we are all made up of the same elements and atoms and particles, okay? We are all made up of the same thing. We are all one with the universe, and the universe is us, okay? We all know that the universe is infinite and it's actually constantly expanding. The universe is constantly creating new existence, it's never ending, and in fact there might be other universes multi-dimensional universes that exist on top of our own universe that stretches out infinitely. So who can actually define what reality is? I don't think we can ever do that. Most people don't like to have this discussion. It scares them, or they just don't like to think about it. They like to think about, I'm a little monkey, I'm gonna go about my little monkey world, do my job, mate, and have children, and go home and consume Netflix. I'm going to go about my monkey world and go to my monkey job, go back to my monkey wife, breed with my monkey wife, make more monkey babies, and consume TV and products and consumer-based capitalism, okay? But we actually have to start thinking about the fundamental nature of the universe and what reality is, because as technology grows, we also see existence and different types of realities get created along with us. So it's very important to really think about what reality truly is and push your boundaries of perspectives with whatever you do in life, because only then you can truly reach your potential and see the universe for what it is. Now, I might sound like a little bit of a madman, Saver. You might sound like, ooh, Saver, you've been popping too many magic mushrooms in the little Pekingese forest. Our human nature and our human perspective, because that's the only way we can actually truly engage with reality. But now that we see technology developing, we can engage with realities in so many new and interesting ways. Also by experimenting with science and different chemicals. I'm not saying you should do that, I'm just saying we can engage with different realities very easily now with DMT and all of this stuff, and no one really can define what reality is, because you can't define it truly, you can't define it exactly on perspective, and you can't define it based on actual physical existence, because we know that physical existence can exist in two states at once. We know we have lots of different dimensions, so because everything exists in the same state, therefore existence all exists in the same state. It's all a matter of how your mind engages with that existence, okay? And saying something is fictional might be true within the construct of our reality, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, okay? But if you really start thinking about it and you break down the barriers of reality, you will start seeing that reality is actually just a concept, just like time really is just a concept. Obviously, time is forever moving, but time and space is relative, so therefore it depends where you are in space, and obviously time will interact very differently depending on where you are in space. But just because something's digital, does that mean that it ceases to be real? It might sound like I'm on something right now, but I'm not. I'm just truly passionate about this topic of reality and experiencing reality. And I think humans really take it for granted because we're suddenly born into this world, and then of course we are usually tragically taken out of it very quickly. But it's just a crazy thing really when you think about it, because at the end of the day it's just because of our brains and our chemical makeup. Defining reality as just one thing with how we see it in our base chemical compound level is truly wrong, if you ask me. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, my sinners, and I'll see you in the next video. Have yourselves a great day. This is Savior 3.0. You are awake.